Ok, clase, para este video vamos a hablar sobre indirect object pronouns. It's a little bit of a lengthy video because I'm going to explain in English what an indirect object pronoun is before we can move on into how we use these in Espanol, because I'm sure some of you may need a little recap on this or a refresher on what these are. I definitely know I needed it when I first started studying Spanish because we learned this in English so long ago. So let's start. So first things first, what's a pronoun? So a pronoun is a word used to take the place of a noun, a person, place, or thing, so that we don't have to keep saying the noun over and over. So we do this in English all the time, and it's equally common in Spanish. We do the same thing. So we're going to look at some examples on the next slide. And it's especially useful if the noun is a long word or name. So an example in English would be something like this. Jehoshaphat Rumsmiler Farquaad came to school. I gave Jehoshaphat Rumsmiler Farquaad a piece of cheese. We told Jehoshaphat Rumsmiler Farquaad the story. Man, am I ever tired of saying Jehoshaphat Rumsmiler Farquaad? So it's much easier to just say this. Jehoshaphat Rumsmiler Farquaad came to school. I gave him a piece of cheese. We told him the story. I like saying him. So instead of me saying his name over and over again, instead I replaced the noun, which was Jehoshaphat Rumsmiler Farquaad, to the pronoun, which was him, right? Can we agree? So can you think of times when you use pronouns? Probably a lot. So an indirect object is a noun in a sentence. So not all sentences have an indirect object. To find out if the sentence does, first we have to find the verb in the sentence and ask the question, this is very key, to whom or for whom is the subject doing something? For example, I bought her the shoes. In parentheses I have for Jill. Or she told them the story. Them referring to Tom, Dick, and Harry. Okay, so you have to ask your question when you look at a sentence. To whom or for whom is the subject doing something? I bought her. So the subject is I, right? The verb is bought. I bought whom or for whom? Her. So if you can answer whatever answers this question, that is the indirect object. To whom or for whom? I bought the shoes for whom? Her. To whom? Her. I told the story to who? Them. So if you can answer that question, or when you do, it is the indirect object. All right, so an easier way. In those sentences, it would be easier just to say, I bought the shoes for her, or she told the story to them. So we just used indirect object pronouns. Sometimes we can even switch the word order in English. So for example, I bought her the shoes instead of I bought the shoes for her. So compare this to this. Or we could say she told the story to them. She told them the story. So we can swap around the indirect object pronouns. We can put them in different places in the sentence. It all answers the same question, to whom or for whom, right? So this is it. Don't get scared now. In Espanol. Dun, dun, dun. And if you've seen this movie, by the way, it's awesome. If you haven't, go watch it. It's Home Alone. It's great stuff. All right, so in Espanol. So here's a complete list of the English and Spanish indirect object pronouns. I just wrote them out so you can see the equivalent of what they are. Here's English. We would say, for our indirect pronouns, me, you, him, her, y'all, only used in Deep South, where we are, us, ye, you, them, all of y'all. In Spanish, we have these. Me, te, le, nos, we're not using this, but os and les. Hey, don't these look familiar? They sure do. We were introduced to some of these when we talked about the verb gustar. Me gusta, te gusta, le gusta. Well, we're using them again. So me would refer to me, te, you, le, him, her, nos, us, and les, you or them. Hopefully copy that down, and hopefully you can get that. So let's try some. Which Spanish indirect object pronoun would you use to replace the following nouns? I give her candy. So out of those indirect object pronouns I just showed you, me, te, le, nos, and les, what would you replace her with? I give her candy. Her referring to my daughter. Le, right? They threw us the ball. What would you replace us with? Nos. She told me the truth. What would you replace me with? Me. We sold them the car. What would you replace them with? Les. All right. Now here's some really important Spanish info. Placing pronouns in English is easy for us since we've been doing it for a long time, our whole lives, without even thinking about it. Doing it in Spanish will require us to put aside our customary way of doing it and follow Spanish rules, okay? So you have to think Spanish mode now. And yes, to answer your question that you're probably asking, it is important to place them correctly because just like in English, a sentence can sound strange if the pronouns are in the wrong places. So for example, let's look at examples in English where the placement is kind of weird. Tell it me versus tell it to me. That sounds really weird. Or please pass the butter me versus please pass me the butter. So me can't just be placed anywhere. Yes, it can jump around to different places like please pass me the butter. This sentence though, you can't really place me anywhere else for it to sound good. It does not sound good like that. Please pass the butter me. That don't sound good. So in Spanish, it's the same way. So it's going to require some thinking and some hard work, but I believe in each and every one of you. Okay, so where do we place these pronouns? There are 5 places a pronoun, any kind, not just indirect object pronouns, may be placed in a sentence in Spanish. Okay, so the first one is, you need to write these down. The first place you can put a pronoun is directly before a conjugated verb. Number 2, tacked on to the end of an infinitive, thus forming a longer word. Remember what the infinitive form of a verb is. It's the unconjugated verb. Third place, tacked on to the end of a command. This is the imperative form. We have not learned this yet, but I'm introducing it to you. Tacked on to the end of a present participle. That would be the ing form, which we've briefly discussed, but I haven't shown you how to conjugate those yet, so don't worry about it. And before a negative command. Again, these last 3, we haven't been taught how to give commands or ing yet, but eventually we will. But I want to introduce this to you now so you can know pronouns can be placed in multiple places. And I know this is probably your face after some of these slides thinking, okay, she's lost me, or this looks a little difficult, but don't worry. Brace yourselves. Stay with me. You got this. And that dog is pretty cute. All right, here's the first place you can put a pronoun, before a conjugated verb. So this is a very common and unfortunately backward from English. We say, I gave her the book. In Spanish, we would say, I to her gave the book. Yes. So her has to go before gave. I, her, gave the book. So let's try it. I want to say to them, we give them the book. Nosotros, blank, damos el libro. This is we give the book. Okay? So we have to put them before the conjugated verb. Before a conjugated verb. Here's the verb, damos, we give. So them has to go before. So think, switch them. Whoop, it's going to jump over here. So what is it going to be? What is them? Which pronoun goes? Bloop, les. All right, how about she gives him her phone number? Ooh, romantic. All right. Ella, blank, da su número de teléfono. Gives her number of telephone. So she gives her telephone number to who? To him. So him has to go before gives, why? Before a conjugated verb, before da, what is it going to be? Le, because him, the equivalent in Spanish is le. Le da. So instead of him, her, it's her, him. Here's a second way or placement of a pronoun tacked onto an infinitive. This is a lot easier. Remember, an infinitive is an unconjugated verb, so it ends in R. Let's try it. We want to send you a letter. Queremos mandar, we want to send blank a letter. This is a lot easier because we read it just straightforward like we do in English, but it has to attach to an infinitive. This is an infinitive, it ends in an R. But what is you? Te. Now notice te can also go over here as well. Te queremos, if you didn't want to put it here, you could either say te queremos mandar una carta, or you could say queremos mandarte una carta. Why can it go in either spot? Because it can go before a conjugated verb right here, or tacked onto an infinitive. Either or you want to do it. Oh, whoops. Here's the next sentence. She is going to tell us the answer. Ella blank va a decir blank la respuesta. She is going to tell the answer. Tell who? Us. Again, you can attach nos here or here before the conjugated verb, or if you want to read it straightforward, attach it to the infinitive. All right, the third one is called, or placement can be tacked onto a command. This sounds more like English. For example, we say tell me, and in Spanish we do the same. Again, you haven't learned how to form commands, but you will. So you just place the pronoun directly at the end of the command. So here's an example of tell us. I don't expect you to know how I got this command right here. All right, eventually you'll learn, but just an example, here's a command. Bloop. Dinos would be tell us. You just attach it at the end. Write to your grandmother. Same thing. Write to her. Write her. Here's the next one. Tacked on to a present participle, the ing verb. This situation will almost afford two options. Remember how the pronoun can go before a conjugated verb? Which is the first placement we talked about. Present participles are almost always found in conjunction with a conjugated verb, so you'll almost always have two options. Both are correct and accepted, okay? So I am writing you a letter. Estoy escribiendo una carta. I am writing you, right? You. So you could either go before or after, either or. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful to you. This is also a concept that is pretty difficult to grasp, but I believe in y'all and I know you can get it. Be sure to ask me any questions that you may have. I know some of you probably do. And if you want more practice, there's these links below if you want to practice more. So hopefully you will if you have time. And who's awesome? You're awesome. And that is spelt wrong on this meme. That wasn't me. I just got it from Google. Should be, you know, apostrophe R-E. You are awesome. They didn't know what they were talking about. But regardless, the puppy is cute and you're awesome. And yeah, that's all, folks.